Imagine standing at the mouth of a dark cave, the smell of smoke clinging to your skin, the flickering fire casting shadows that dance like spirits on the stone walls. In your hand is a torch, and before you, carved into the rock, are images of bison, horses, and mysterious symbols that have survived for tens of thousands of years. You are not simply looking at art. You are standing at the threshold of the oldest known religion. Long before temples and scriptures, long before priests and doctrines, human beings whispered prayers to the unseen, painted their beliefs into stone, and sought meaning in the vast, mysterious world around them. To uncover the spirituality of the Paleolithic is to enter a world where survival was inseparable from faith, where the divine could be found in every shadow, every animal, and every breath of wind. This is the story of humanity's first religion, the invisible thread that connected our ancestors to the cosmos. When we think of religion today, images of churches, mosques, temples, and synagogues come to mind, but the true origins of religion lie in a time when humans had no permanent buildings, no written language, and no formal institutions. The Paleolithic period, spanning roughly 2.5 million years ago to 10,000 BCE, was the canvas upon which humanity's earliest spiritual ideas were painted. Our ancestors were hunters, gatherers, wanderers. They depended on nature not only for survival, but for meaning. The forests, rivers, and skies were not silent. They were alive, animated, and filled with forces both benevolent and dangerous. To the Paleolithic mind, every aspect of the world contained spirit. This worldview, often referred to as animism, is thought to be the oldest form of religion. Animism did not separate the natural from the spiritual. A bear was not just an animal, it was a being with power, wisdom, and perhaps even kinship. A tree was not merely wood and leaves, it was a vessel of life, perhaps even the dwelling of an unseen spirit. For Paleolithic people, the sacred was everywhere, embedded in the fabric of reality. One of the most profound spiritual symbols of the Paleolithic was fire. Archaeological evidence shows that fire was controlled by humans at least 1 million years ago. To those early humans, fire was more than a tool. It was a miracle, a bridge between survival and transcendence. Imagine a small band of hunter-gatherers gathered around a campfire. The flames offer warmth against the cold night, protection from predators lurking in the dark, and a space for stories to be shared. Fire was a source of awe, its origins mysterious, its power divine. It is not hard to imagine early humans venerating fire as a gift from the gods, or as a god itself. In many later cultures, from Zoroastrianism to Hindu rituals, fire retained its sacred status. But its spiritual roots likely extend deep into the Paleolithic. The first religion may not have had gods carved in stone, but it had fire, a living, breathing presence that connected the earthly to the otherworldly. Caves became the earliest temples. The walls of Chauvet Cave in France, dating back over 30,000 years, are adorned with magnificent paintings of animals, lions, rhinoceroses, mammoths, and more. To modern eyes, these might appear as simple art, but to Paleolithic humans, they were imbued with profound meaning. Why paint deep inside caves, in places where sunlight never reached? Some archaeologists suggest these spaces were sanctuaries, places where humans could commune with the spirits of animals and ancestors. The act of painting may have been a ritual itself, a way of calling upon the strength of the bison before a hunt, or of honoring the life of the horse that provided sustenance. Others suggest the caves were gateways to another world. The darkness, the echoing acoustics, the flickering firelight illuminating paintings, all could create an altered state of consciousness. In these moments, the ordinary world dissolved, and the spiritual realm opened. Religion in the Paleolithic was not organized, but it was likely guided by certain individuals, shamans. The role of the shaman was to journey between worlds, to communicate with spirits, to heal, and to guide the community in matters of the unseen. Evidence for shamanistic practices can be seen in cave art, particularly in hybrid figures that combine human and animal features. The famous sorcerer figure from the cave of Trois Frères in France depicts a being with the body of a man, the antlers of a deer, and the tail of an animal. Was this a god, a spirit, or was it a shaman in trance, donning animal skins to embody the sacred? Shamanism reflects a belief that reality is layered, that beyond the visible world lies a spiritual dimension accessible through ritual, drumming, dance, or hallucinogenic plants. It is likely that Paleolithic shamans were the first religious leaders, though their authority did not come from written doctrine, but from lived experience and visions. One of the clearest windows into Paleolithic spirituality is found in burial practices. The very act of burying the dead suggests a belief that death was not the end. Neanderthal burials, dating back at least 60,000 years, show evidence of ritual. Graves sometimes contained flowers, tools, or animal bones, offerings perhaps, for the journey beyond. Among early Homo sapiens, burials became even more elaborate, with ochre, a red pigment symbolizing life or blood, sprinkled over the bodies. Such practices suggest that our ancestors believed in an afterlife, or at least in the continued existence of the dead. Death was not annihilation, but transformation. The earliest religion, then, was not only about surviving this world, but also about preparing for the next. For hunter-gatherers, hunting was both necessity and ritual. The hunt was never just about food, it was a sacred act, a dance with life and death. Some scholars believe that Paleolithic cave paintings were part of hunting magic. By painting animals, humans sought to control or influence the outcome of the hunt. The very act of representation was believed to hold power. Moreover, hunters often performed rituals before and after the hunt. Prayers might be offered to the spirit of the animal, asking for permission to take its life. Afterward, the bones or skulls might be placed in special sites, honoring the animal's spirit and ensuring that its kin would continue to offer themselves in the future. Such practices reveal a worldview in which humans did not see themselves as separate from animals, but as partners in a cycle of life, bound together by mutual respect and necessity. Among the most famous artifacts of the Paleolithic are the Venus figurines, small statues of women with exaggerated breasts, hips, and bellies. Dating back as far as 40,000 years, these figures have been found across Europe and Asia. What did they represent? Many scholars believe they were symbols of fertility, life, and the divine feminine. The Paleolithic world was harsh and uncertain. Survival depended on the ability to reproduce. A woman's body, capable of bringing forth life, must have seemed nothing short of miraculous. These figurines may have embodied the first goddess, the Great Mother, the eternal womb from which all life emerges. If so, then the roots of goddess worship stretch back tens of thousands of years, long before the rise of organized religion. Music and dance, too, were likely central to Paleolithic spirituality. Flutes made from bird bones, dating back over 40,000 years, have been discovered in caves. The haunting notes of these instruments would have echoed through the darkness, carrying humans into altered states of awareness. Drumming, chanting, and dancing around fires created rhythm and unity, dissolving the boundary between the individual and the group. In these communal rituals, people likely felt themselves lifted beyond the mundane, transported into the realm of the sacred. These practices were not entertainment in the modern sense. They were vehicles for connection with each other, with the spirits, with the unseen forces that governed their lives. Though separated by tens of thousands of years, many later religions echo Paleolithic spirituality. The reverence for fire in Zoroastrianism, the worship of animal spirits in indigenous traditions, the great mother goddess in Neolithic and Bronze Age cultures, all can be traced back to the seeds planted in the Paleolithic. The themes are universal: reverence for nature, respect for animals, belief in spirits and an afterlife, and the role of ritual in binding communities together. The oldest religion was not a single creed, but a way of seeing the world, one that still whispers through the ages. Today we live in cities of steel and glass, with religions codified in books and doctrines, yet deep within us, the echoes of the Paleolithic still stir. When we stand in awe before a sunset, when we light a candle in darkness, when we feel the presence of something greater in the silence of the forest, we are touching the same spiritual thread that guided our ancestors. The oldest religion was not about control or dogma. It was about wonder, reverence, and relationship. It asked no questions of belief, only of belonging. To uncover the spirituality of the Paleolithic is to remember that we are, and always have been, part of a sacred world.